The debate over the Republican healthcare bill continues. We've gotten some reports that Donald Trump has held a meeting with some of the Republican holdouts and has promised him that they're going to put in even more stringent, more conservative measures, including additional cutting of funding to Medicaid, converting more of it into block grants, a number of things to try to make it more conservative. But all the while that that's happening, where he's got the conservatives who are unhappy, he's got the moderate Republicans who are unhappy, also understand that his base is not worried about this stuff, okay? He recently gave a speech and he mentioned his healthcare plan there. And the Washington Post talked to some of his supporters and found out what they think about his bill. And this was an interesting section. So they have this section on Charla McCormick. It says, soon after her son lost his job, his health insurance premium dropped from $567 per month to just $88, what she calls a blessing from God. And she says that I think it was just because of the tax credit in TrumpCare. So she says people are all worried about Trump's healthcare plan, but her healthcare plan has already saved her son a ton of money, which is interesting because Trump's healthcare plan hasn't passed yet, okay? And in fact, the price change was thanks to a subsidy made possible by former President Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act, which is still in place. And she says that she trusts him implicitly, like she has only ever trusted Jesus Christ in the past.
I'm just curious how this particular act of God works. So, I mean, I get it as far as thinking that there's blessings in disguise. I get that terminology, I grew up in it. So I get when bad things may happen to you, like, oh, this actually turned out for the better. I end up being available to get a new job that I actually love and I get paid more, whatever. That's a blessing in disguise. But real things in the workspace happened.
Yeah.
So when she thinks her son losing his job and then the price of his healthcare going from $567
down to $88,
does she think that that's an arbitrary number of $88 that is floating and he never was able to find it?
And she thinks it was due to a bill that hasn't passed.
Was it always, like, how was it a blessing in disguise? Or not even that, she didn't use that terminology. It was a blessing from God.
Yeah.
What did God do? Did he tell someone to put in this healthcare, these new regulations that allowed your son's premium to go to that point? Who was exactly responsible for it? God doesn't write legislation.
No, but God did
invent commandments.
God did invent cross-check.
That's true. And look, so we mentioned this particular interviewee there. There's a number in the Washington Post piece. She's not the villain, okay? So she's wrong about this, but like there's so much misinformation. There's so many lies being told. You like put yourself in the position of a person who's just trying to get through your life and you're being lied to on all sides. You're being deceived, misled by the politicians, by the media. Of course, you're gonna come to some crazy conclusions like that bills that haven't passed could have possibly already had a good effect on your son. And the reason that I bring this up is that these bills are incredibly complex. As Donald Trump said, who knew that healthcare could be this complicated? And we're trying to get people to understand the likely impacts of various parts of the bill. Like, what does it mean to cut Medicaid? What does it mean to let insurance companies sell across borders? It's complex things. People argue about the likely outcomes, but then there's a lot of regular people who just accept what politicians tell them. They accept that they've already had effects before they're put into place. And so that's something I just think we have to keep in mind as this debate over repealing and replacing Obamacare
Well,
continues.
part of it, and then as the debate goes, I'll promise I'll do this quickly, John. As the debate goes, there was also the meeting that Trump had with 13 Republicans that weren't too sure about this because it seemed a little bit too progressive or it seemed a little bit too Obamacare-like. So he needed to convince them. He's been saying, we're gonna negotiate this, we're gonna change some of the things. And two of the things was the block grants and the work requirements for states, which would give a lot more power to states to do whatever the hell they want to their citizens with just a set amount of money. Now that set amount of money goes to a lot of things. If you're gonna implement the work requirement, that's bureaucracy, that's red tape, that's employees, that's agencies, that's enforcement. All these things cost money. And they take all that money from the Medicaid money they'll get from the federal government. There's things that will destroy people's care, and also it starts with the assumption that people who are on Medicare or low income or have no job, that they're just lazy schleps. And their whole idea is to sit on their ass and can't wait to get sick so they can go to the doctor on the government's dime. So you start off by hating Americans, you give this extra power to states and governors of states that have nothing else to do except for answer to their corporate interests, which have nothing to do with poor people, have nothing to do with middle class people, and their systems of doing it creates this a larger pool of people that need Medicare. So it's frustrating because people don't want to read anything like that or what these two things that, by the way, these two things are the negotiating tools that he used to get 12 of the 13 on board. After you do that, you have to see what they've just done to you.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly how block grants worked. I read it this morning. I said, oh, I've heard about block grants. I haven't had 5 minutes to read about it. I think I'll read about it now because I don't like not knowing what I'm reading about. So I read about it. It's really easy to do. It was 2 pages.
But you're probably not going to do that if you implicitly trust the politician who's pushing for you. Yeah.
Healthcare access with work requirements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 pages. That was taxing.
Yes.
So after you do it, and you read about how this stuff works, and these weren't biased articles. It just says how it works. And in the middle of it, it actually says how the reason why Republicans like it. Because that's why they keep talking about states' rights.
Yeah.
Because they want them to go back to that. So it's not like it's a biased article going, look at these bloodthirsty killers in the Republican Party. It says this is how it works, read about it, and find out if that works out for you. It doesn't. That's all there is to it. Don't listen to them tell you this guy's trying to kill you and that guy's trying to save you. Why would you believe that?
So can I just say that, now it's funny to watch the Republicans have to govern, right? So now they have to, so this woman's misinformed, but soon enough, her son's healthcare insurance bill will skyrocket and he will get less coverage with less access under the Republican plan. And then they will have no one to blame except the Republicans. And so we have to keep that in mind. Also, the Republican plan is to take away the Republican plan will take away the individual mandate, which is the thing that funds the whole goddamn plan. Because the way insurance works is the people who aren't sick fund it for people who are sick. That's why
Ryan just found out about that.
He understands how insurance works. He just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So, and that's a conservative idea, by the way, because when someone gets sick who doesn't currently have health insurance anyway, through the individual mandate, if you take the individual mandate away, those people are still gonna get in motorcycle accidents, they're still gonna fall off of cliffs, they're still gonna get sick, and when they go get care, even though they have insurance, we're still gonna fucking pay for them because that's how we do it in America, but we're gonna pay for it in the most expensive way possible through an emergency room visit.
Yes.
And then people are wait to get care anyway. So then when they finally do go to emergency room, they have conditions that could have been easily treated before that aren't. So the Republican plan is going to make everything more expensive with less access and less care. And it's soon enough people will figure that out. It won't be till after 2018 because they don't want any of their health care plans to kick in until after the midterms.
Yes.
And so the Democrats have to do their job and make sure that they message correctly on this, which means this will fucking never happen because the Democrats never message correctly because they have no message. Sorry.
If you want to know what it'll look like, go back and watch Michael Moore's Sicko. It's going to look like it looked before we had the ACA. Premium skyrocketing nonstop, lots of people having to go to emergency rooms for basic conditions that could have been prevented if they had insurance. One other thing though, so Paul Ryan is the other big figure in this, and you can tell whether the bill is likely to pass based on whose name is being attached to it and who wants credit for it. So it's been bouncing back and forth, and we believe that after the CBO report and after the White House report, it wasn't likely to pass because it's gonna throw 24 to 26 million people off of insurance. Now Trump is feeling like, yeah, we got this thing on lockdown. And then Paul Ryan had a quote today that you told us about before the show. Do you want to tell people that?
I can't remember. You tell me.
Okay, so Paul Ryan said in reference to the massive cuts that they're going to be making to Medicaid. Remember, this is a program that almost universally helps out the poorest Americans. Says this is a dream that we've had since we were back drinking kegs back in college.
Yeah.
So when you were in college, just think, were you thinking, God, someday if I work, if I really apply myself, I can kick some poor people off of their health insurance?
Yes.
That's the reasonable, rational person in this equation.
Are you sick of the mainstream media? Then I got good news for you. We're gonna hire some investigative reporters and we're gonna go house. We're actually going to investigate what's happening in this country and stand up for you guys. Help us do it. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If everybody watching this video just gives a little bit of money, we'd have plenty to hire those investigative teams and unleash them on the country.